Welkom bij Waaktalk. What struck me were the colors of your bracelet. Tell me something about colors.
I love colors. I think colors are very important in terms of communication. Most of my time I'm talking to people, listening to people, and you want to give out a message. And the colors for me, especially since I mostly work with corporates, bring it to life. Because most corporate environments are very grey and dark and boring.
So you want to bring light. What is light?
I think light is what happens when what you believe should happen matches what you're actually doing. I think for most people, they end up doing things which don't match what they believe in their hearts they should be doing. And that's part of the darkness for them.
So it's about connecting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's about connecting. One of the headaches, I think, for most people is that they have an intuitive sense of what reality is. And then they listen to the words around them and what people tell them to do, and their monthly targets and how they're supposed to perform, their KPIs. And they do those. And they know it's not quite the right thing, but they don't know how to explain how to do something differently.
What was the most important thing in your life you had to connect with?
For me, oh gosh, there are many points. I'm a very lucky person because I've had many points in my life where I've had to go and reboot myself. I reinvented my career several times. I think probably the biggest connection for me was about 15 years ago, where I was teaching on a program. And as I was teaching this material, it suddenly dawned on me that I had never seen that in real life. And it was a shock to me. And I started to think, what was going on? And then about 2 days later, somebody brought me a problem from a bank on a project that was going wrong. And I looked at it and I thought, I've never seen a problem like this before. And it made me fundamentally re-examine everything I was doing and how I was teaching it and what the context was.
So you were connecting with reality?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And what is the problem that people don't connect with reality? Why don't they do that?
The thing which makes me most passionate about why they don't create reality at the moment is because they become disconnected by mistake. What's happened is somebody has played a secret trick on us, and I don't know whether you noticed, but they've been speeding up the rate the world moves.
Yes.
Okay. As they sped it up, it goes faster. But then you get to this really terrible point. Suddenly it's going faster than you can actually learn.
Yes.
And at that point, it means that when you read something, when you listen to your boss, when you set the target, the meaning is gone. And if you try to find out somebody who knows, nobody knows. They all pretend, yes, I know, but they don't know. So that's what is actually disconnecting people. The fact that the world now changes faster than most of us can learn. My nickname for that is I call that the new world. I think that's the reality we're living in.
And should we speeden up or should we slow the world?
No, neither. What we need to do is change how we interact with the world. And when you say that, people go, what? But there are many things we do. You watch an executive, they're busy, they're rushing around. You ask them what they're doing. They tell you a long list of things. And then you say to them, well, what happens if you fix the time and limit the number of things you do? What would happen then? And what you discover is our mindset is to make the list first and then try and complete everything. But if we set the time first and then decide what we can fit in the time, it completely transforms the way you operate.
It's like you think in budgets. You have this amount of money and you can buy what?
Absolutely. Otherwise you could say, what would I like to do? Now, how much money am I going to make? How much money am I going to spend? To do it in reverse, rather than the other way around.
Okay. Still, you tell a lot of stories. Are you not misguiding truth in stories?
Stories are interesting because the strapline I use is don't eat the menu. When you go to a restaurant, you don't eat the menu. The story is the menu. The story is explaining the situation. It's not the story you're supposed to learn about. It's the actual reality of it. But sometimes you need a story as a bridge. So, for example, if I was trying to explain to somebody, one of my favorite stories I tell at the moment is about the poor rabbit who lived in Idea's farm. Mm-hmm. And every year, once after the budget had been agreed, all these rabbits would be sent out across the fields, across the towns, to the land of money. And many of them would die because they were run over by cars. Would it not be better if the people who sent these ideas to try and turn them into money instead looked after the rabbits, made them strong, made them grow, made sure the cars didn't squash them? We would have fewer rabbits to suffer. And that story is a story about innovation. Most companies produce too many ideas and then the ideas die, rather than producing better clearer customer connected ideas.
And what is then the function of the story? Is that
The function of the story is to make sure that people can re-examine their current situation with new language, but also not feel stupid about the fact that what they're doing doesn't make sense.
so? It helps them to come from their images, their own stories, brings them into
Yeah.
seeing what's really going.
Absolutely. You've summarized it. And because one of the problems when you're doing a lot of change work is if you go to somebody and you say, you need to change, what you don't realize is you just insulted them, because what you're saying is, what you did in the past was stupid. But what I want them to understand is, what they did in the past matched the world then, the reality of the slower pace of the world. What they're doing now, or what they need to do, is about the new state of the world. It's that connection with the new, and the story gives me a little bridge.
Do you have a big danger that you start believing in the story you create around yourself?
Yeah, always it's very funny to create stories around yourself. They say you should never read your own PR. And I read it pretty frequently, but I try to maintain sanity. But
How do you do that?
By sanity, I just ask anyone around me, so am I as crazy as they say? And they go, no, you're not crazy as they say, you're crazier.
You ask them to slap you in the face. What do you need when you connect it in reality? What do you want to find there for yourself?
For myself, my vision is very simple. I've been trying to just create things, thinking, concepts, frameworks, which fit better with the world around us. So for most organizations, people are rushing around, and most of the activity is wasted. I'm just trying to create that. So that's my goal. I think what I see is a lot of stress, difficulty, bad decisions by companies, by governments, simply because they cannot think it through because they're in a different environment. They haven't connected with the real environment. So I'm just trying to make a contribution, make it easier for them to actually see what the reality is. I'll tell you a story. The part of the analogy which I use, another story was I was once shopping about when I started my business, and I was walking down a street in a place called Hammersmith in London. And I stopped and I looked into the shop window, and I don't know whether you remember. You remember there used to be a fashion for those magic eye pictures with all the different dots.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I'd never seen one before. And I looked into the shop window, and there was this purple thing with lots of dots everywhere. And when I looked into this thing, all of a sudden, a man was standing inside the picture. And I couldn't breathe. It was such a shock. And I started to think, what the hell was that? What on earth was that? And I started to question myself. If I can see an image of a man, when before I could not see an image of a man, which one is real? Is it the picture without the man or the picture with the man? And I think it's the same thing. The reality is the picture with the man. We look at the flat magic eye thing, we don't see the pattern. If you're lucky, you see the pattern inside. When you see the pattern inside, that's the connection you make.
What's the moment you feel most happy?
Most happy? Probably when I'm skiing, but apart from that, when I'm with my wife, yes. When something that I've been teaching and people have got it and it's transformed their lives, that's nice. I'm a lucky person. I have many things to make me happy. Sometimes when I'm flying, I'm happy as well.
Do you sometimes feel that you give and do not receive?
I'm not worried about receiving, to be honest. I'm so lucky anyway. I'm lucky I have a successful business. The things I teach people tend to do. It's enough.
Is that the essence of entrepreneurial, that you love the giving?
Yeah, because I have a theory that if you give the right thing to the right customer group, generally they will give you money back. And often they'll give you much more money than you expected. And so as an entrepreneur, if you have that mindset, it's much easier. If you don't have that mindset and you're chasing the money, usually you just end up as a very sort of sad, money-grubbing type of person. And anyway, people don't want to give you the money because they feel cheated.
If God sends you back reincarnated, what animal would you be?
What animal? Probably a cat.
Thank you for this conversation.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.